Welcome to State of My Art Podcast, episode 31. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm your host, Mike Liordi. Today on the pod, I have the honor of chatting with legendary producer and musician and owner of the Panda Studios, Mr. Sam Pura. Sam is a very talented multi-instrumentalist, audio engineer, and producer out of Northern California. He's responsible for the incredible productions and mixes for bands like The Story So Far, State Champs, and The Dangerous Summer, to name a few of my favorites. During this conversation, we discuss staying in the flow zone for long days in the studio, his journey through life from being a hockey player to being a musician to being a producer, some of the projects he's played a huge role in, including his new band, Bone Cutter, which you can find on the State of My Art playlist on Spotify. How this industry is just crazy and kind of forces us to be combative at times. His new drum sample pack, available through Drumforge, so check that out if you want to get some cool drum sounds. And of course, I had to let him in on my overly realistic video game idea. My conversation with Sam Pura happened on April 1st, 2021. All right, well, I am good to go. I'm rolling on everything.
Look at your cute little doggy. I like it.
Sweet, yeah, this is...
it's a beagle, right?
My roommate's beagle. His name is Brady, named after Tom Brady.
That's funny. As opposed to it being named after the Brady Bunch.
Yeah. I actually didn't even clue in that he was named after Tom Brady for like the first 2 months. Well, welcome to the show. Thanks for taking the time to be on State of My Art podcast. This is interesting because we've never even met. I don't really know you.
No clue.
But I am a fan of your work, and
I appreciate that.
We have a lot of mutual friends that you have worked with. Shout out
nice.
To my boys, Mindless Society. You just worked with.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited to hear their new stuff when it's finally out. Yeah.
I like those guys a lot. Very good people.
Right on. So let us know what you do here. You're at your studio right now. What studio is that called?
I am the owner and chief audio engineer here at the Panda Studios, which is in Fremont, California. I always forget exactly when I started this location, but I've been making records ever since I was 18, and now I'm 35. I'm about to be 36. So, that's what I do, is I produce and record audio and make music with lots of people.
That's really awesome, man. And who are some of the big projects you've worked on? Obviously, The Story So Far. You're basically the sixth member of The Story So Far.
And at one point, yes. A second.
Okay. Who else are you very proud to have your name stamped with?
The notable records that a lot of people would recognize are, The Story So Far, State Champs, Basement, 100th, The Dangerous Summer, Spiritworld, Heavy Heavy Lolo, and then, a lot of other random various indie projects. That would be the majority of the names there,
Yeah, that's awesome. Sorry to make you name drop. I just
yeah, so good. Yeah,
I forgot you even did The Dangerous Summer. I love that new record. That's one of my favorites. Yeah,
I appreciate that. I'm glad.
And State Champs, I'm a huge fan of as well.
Oh, cool, man.
Yeah,
very.
So
cool.
how many records a year? Well, I guess there's a lot of singles now too. How many songs a year would you say you produce?
Full lengths are the ones that really require a lot of time and a lot of endurance from people, and they think they're gonna blow it out in 3 weeks, and it takes 6 to 8 weeks, maybe even a year, depending on how to get everyone on the right schedule and actually get a record done. So I'm working on a lot of things simultaneously. Just right now I'm currently mixing a full album for the band Tennis System, and I'm playing additional drums and stuff like that on it, which is fun, as opposed to just mixing and working on audio. I'm essentially like being like a band member of that record, and it's like really cool. You know what I mean? And then on top of that, like I'm mixing an EP that I helped like co-produce with some dudes from LA. Finishing up like a full length that I started last year. Then like I just blew out a bunch of like EPs and singles that I finished producing like last year and wrapping up. So like, I mean, it's 20 to 30 plus different projects a year.
That's insane, man. I don't know how you juggle all that.
It's complicated, especially because like I'm not one that really likes to treat this like work. You know what I mean? Like I'm one that really likes to treat this like this creative, emotional opportunity to like seek emotional fulfillment from the end result. You know what I mean? So I'm like working all day to like really like make something that moves me, and it's like really it's really complicated and hard to stay in the flow zone all the time. You know what I mean? Like, but it's basically I just come in it every single day, and I work here for 10 to 12 hours a day on audio. And so it's after 52 weeks of doing that each year, there's a lot of different content that comes out, which is awesome. You know what I mean? Like that's all I want to do is just like make really cool content every day.
Have you always been a drummer? Is that like your main instrument?
Actually, no. I'm a guitar player, and really like I excel at bass as well too. Like because I'm like such a really good rhythm guitar player.
Sure.
I don't do any like lead shredding or anything like that. I've never been a shredder, but I've always been like the best rhythm guitar player that I've ever recorded. And people like think I'm like insane when I say that, or like it's like some ego like pompous thing, but it's like it's so true. Like I play guitar every single day in my studio. I know exactly how to record, like how to hit like power chords perfectly, and like so I really like working with guitar players and like really teaching them and like helping like get involved and like smashing guitar so it sounds huge. You know what I mean? And just like playing hard guitar. Really into bass. Really like dedicated about like because I'm really like drums are like one of the things that a lot of people like know of my productions from. Like if you press play and hear the drum, like most people who like follow my work know it's a Sam Pura record. So it's like I have like a very heavy thumbprint in that department, and like because of that I give like so much attention to detail and respect to bass, because bass is like really all the perceived low end that is like happening and like is the thing that relates to a guitar. So I get like really like dedicated to the details, like so much more so that like it's kind of like neurotic and really annoying to fragile people who have completely no idea what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? And like how I'm hyper attentive to details that they just cannot even fathom and like do not understand. You know what I mean? So that's kind of difficult sometimes and like unique to navigate. But yeah, I mean, I'm just like obsessed with guitar. I'm obsessed with bass. And so I'm obsessed with drums, and I've always relied on a drummer and like getting a good session drummer to like come in. And it's always been complicated to like get the right performances and right sounds out of like hundreds of different dudes. You know what I mean? So I'm a huge stickler about drums. And so recently I just started playing them because I can make them sound the way that I want to sound. And it's like all of that's kind of been like an eye-opening like and fun experience where it's like I like well, I mean, I guess I hate recording bands, and I really like producing music with absolutely no rules. You know what I mean? Like best talent picks up the guitar and fucking plays the part because that's what we're doing right now. Like the guy who's the best at the drums in the room is the guy that's going to sit at the drum kit and play the drums right now for this song. You know, it's like it's just whatever is best for the song to make the best type of material all day. So yeah, so and like I sing harmonies, like I get like so involved on I'm a session musician on all my records basically, whether the bands know it or not.
Yeah, that's really awesome, and that's a really interesting point to segue to already, because there's a lot of records that so a little bit of my background, I'm kind of a studio rat. I was kind of an intern in my final year of high school, and that kind of sucked me into a recording studio in Toronto that taught me everything I know. I don't nearly pump out nearly as much content as you, but I kind of took it into my own, like, I'm going to build my band and brand and
That's awesome.
help some other bands out along the way, help write songs.
Did you go to Nimbus?
No, I'm actually, I went to Drive Studios was my internship,
Okay,
and that's Steve Risen. He's mixed all my stuff. We've worked on a lot of like Fat Records stuff and a lot of hardcore stuff. So yeah, I was just like surrounded by that world because I was already like in a band and obsessed with learning more about music.
Yeah, more punk music, it seems like, routed.
For sure.
That's awesome.
But I definitely had like a big pop influence on the side of like, you know, they always kind of made fun of me for it, but like I've sang on some Disney movies as like the session guy. And
that's so good.
So like I kind of streamed off into both the punk world and the pop world and sort of made my own thing that combines them both.
You're truly punk is what it sounds like. You do whatever the fuck you want. That's fun.
Yeah, that's true. I've never really worried about being punk, or it's just I grew up listening to a lot of pop punk bands, so I end up you know, being in that world. But that's so important for bands to know going into the studio that, hey, you might not play all of the parts that you wrote, even let alone that, you know, you think that you've been playing live, especially.
Yeah, that's where it's important to be like, this is not a recording studio, it's a production facility. You know what I mean? Like, if you think you're going to a recording studio, you should go to a different studio than this place. You know what I mean? Like, because the people who work here and work on my productions are all focused on productions and making the best productions possible, as opposed to recording bands and documenting live performances, you know?
Right. Now, you own the studio. Do you have any interns? Do you have any other producers come in and use the studio?
Yeah, lots of like freelancers and stuff like that who basically I just invite to hang out and watch and learn, absorb, and apply it to their own sessions and book time here, you know? So it's super cool.
Yeah, I've seen your live room on your Instagram. It looks awesome, and we have the same PDP kit. Which
there you go. That's amazing. Yeah, I love that PDP. I have every size of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to get the 26, but it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm waiting on the 22, but I have everything else for it. I have the 26, the 24. I have the 18. Then for the toms, I have the 12, the 13, the 14, the 16, and the 18.
Wow.
Yeah, it's bomb, so I can hit any tuning. It's amazing.
Did you use that kit for some of the Dangerous Summer stuff, or they brought their own?
Yes, that is the kit.
Oh, really?
That's my main go-to studio kit, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm not surprised because I just finally started recording some new stuff on that kit, and I was like, these tones sound like Dangerous Summer.
Yeah, man, it's just a great sounding kit. It just sounds like the drums that I like.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what do you got down the pipeline? Are you working on some bands right now? Like during COVID, have you been pretty swamped with bands coming in, or has it chilled out?
Lots of shit, lots of like mastering and mixing. But on top of that, like, I'm honestly really just trying to start focusing on making my own content and putting it all out. Like I have a band that we just put out a new album with, and I'm like trying to just get more focused on like hanging out with whoever the fuck I want and making whatever the fuck song I want with those guys and utilizing everyone's talent to like just make new music and put it out with completely no rules and like no thoughts of the branding or anything like that. Like just focusing on using my studio for what I fucking built it for, which is just to make the music I want to make, you know?
Yeah, that's fun. What's that band called again?
We are called Bone Cutter. We are the continuation of a former band called Heavy Heavy Lolo, where I used to produce all the material for that band, and now I play guitar and produce all the material for all that band. So it's lots of avant-garde, intuitive punk music that is more of a product of the unique collaboration of all of us as opposed to the facilitation of conceived ideas. You know what I mean? Right.
That's awesome. Yeah. I would have thought like just straight hardcore with a name like Bone Cutter. But
yeah, it is essentially, yeah.
Sweet. And you guys have you released music under that name?
Yeah, we have we have 2 music videos that have come out already, 2 singles, and then we have an EP that's getting pressed and going to be released here in a few weeks. So it's pretty bomb, dude.
Yeah. Everybody check that out. I'll definitely add it to. I just created finally a state of my art playlist of all the guests that I have on. So
there you go.
I'll throw it on there.
Yeah, throw that on there, and then throw on some Spiritworld as well too, because that's the next biggest thing in the world.
Awesome. Is that one of the bands you're working with?
That is a band I produced an album for. It's called Pagan Rhythms. It is a evil fucking heavy metal record, and it's fucking bomb, dude. And we're gonna start working on some new stuff here pretty soon. And that band has potential to be one of the sickest, best current active performing bands in that genre today. And I'm really excited about them. Yeah,
that's cool, man. I'll check that out.
Yep.
Now, is your studio like attached to your house? Do you just walk over?
Fuck no.
Nice.
Yeah, I used to live in my studio, and it was like the worst thing ever. Super uninspiring. I was cabin fever, man. I have to leave, I got to get out of there and then come back. But yeah, my studio is like 25 minutes from my house, so I just commute back and forth and hang out here for like 10, 12 hours a day. It's pretty bomb.
Wow. You must sleep like 5 hours.
Yes, I don't sleep too many hours. I would be here earlier if there wasn't traffic. So thankfully I skipped traffic because my hours are a little later. But that makes like having dinner with my wife at home like a little inconvenient if I'm always trying to do that. So,
right.
Because I'm like usually like 11 and 9 p.m. is pretty much like when I'm here.
Do you have like a routine? I'm trying to get into a routine of like, all right, I'm going to write first thing in the morning. Do you have like I'm going to edit and get that out of the way or what?
No, it's more so like I'm going to wake up and I'm going to attack like what's on my like to-do list and like what I need to get done. And I'm like, it's basically just like whatever problem presents itself at any time, like I'll troubleshoot it like that. And it's like, I wish I could be like more in like a flow zone of like, oh yeah, I come to work and I like work on like writing songs for like a few hours. And then I fucking like work on another thing. Like I basically just come to work, answer a bunch of emails, try to like shit out all the things that I need to get done. And then spend the bulk of my day working on what I'm supposed to be working on. So like whether if that's like mixing a project or tracking a new project or whatever it is that like I've put in the calendar to devote the time to, like I will spend the majority of that day doing that. So like all this like last 2 days I've just been doing like Zoom remote streaming mixes where I'm just like I'm blowing through like I guess like maybe 2 songs a day now on mixes. I'm starting to get pretty fast on it.
Wow.
Which is pretty cool. But yeah, like working on a few different projects. But yeah, it's just show up and start getting it done, dude,
Yeah. Do you mix pretty much everything that you produce or do you still sometimes send it off to be mixed by other mixers?
I've had less positive experiences with having other people mix my work. And usually like when that becomes part of the process, it's usually because like someone had a falling out with me through the process and wants someone else to take it over. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like there's already like some negative like thing in the air about it. And then I'm already like, well, I think it sounds worse than where I think I had it because like seems like someone was hired to get it done as opposed to give a shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like, I worked with my idol Eric Valentine in the past where he like mixed one of our songs and also like my idol fucking or he mixed a record, but then Tom Wardalgi mixed one of our songs, and like hanging out with both of them was like super inspiring and super cool. But like at the same time, like it gave me this like really weird validation and reassurance where I was just like, oh, I do what I do pretty well, and if I dove deeper into like actually like fixing every single intuitive, anxious thing that comes to my mind as I'm working on the audio, I can make it sound better than what I think these guys are making it sound like. So it just kind of was like cool to watch that like the process is like they follow their ears and they like make it sound as great as they can to them, and that's that's the process. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, and like, as long as you have the endurance for it and like are ready to like go down every single fucking like rabbit hole to like be the guy who actually like checked every single aspect of the mix and like made sure that it worked for you, then that's the secret. You know what I mean? So it like gave me more confidence and like showed me a little bit more like of what was necessary of me to like really be fulfilled with my mixes. And like I've always been really happy with my mixes, to be honest. And I've been doing most of my masters now.
Oh.
I used to have like a couple other like people that I would kind of shoot to master, but I've just accepted that like me mixing through my mastering chain just sounds great, and they're like, and when it goes to a mastering engineer, it just sounds different, as opposed to sounding even better. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Especially these days. And like, we had a couple shootouts on a couple things, and like the band just preferred my masters. So I was like, okay, well, I guess it just makes it really easy for me to just focus on being the guy that like completely mixes and masters my shit, and like just trust that like if it sounds good to me, then other people think it sounds good. So I just really focus on like making myself hella stoked on whatever I'm working on. You know what I mean?
Yes. So you will mix with the master chain on. Do you?
Absolutely.
Is it all
Day one?
Is it like all mixing in the box, all mastering hardware, or do you keep it all in the box?
I have hardware inserts that I use, like, and one of them is on my mix bus. But besides that, for like my mastering hardware, it's all just like, or my mastering is all just software. And then the majority of all the channel work that I'm doing inside of Pro Tools is all plugin based. But anything that's like bus work is usually outboard.
Gotcha. So I know you've worked with a lot of big label bands. What do you find harder, working with bands or working with labels?
The combined thing is a mess. I mean, like, you know, it's so funny because like me just like even like telling the reality of like what I experience, like people are like, oh, that translates to he talks shit or whatever. It's like, why is that even talking shit? Like, it's because like the name of the game is like take advantage of everyone that you can. And that's what the label's looking to do. That's what the band's looking to do. That's what every single person is looking to do. And like, it's to be like a guy like me who's like a natural, like I want to literally be best friends, and like I would make all of the records I've ever made in my life for free if I didn't have to worry about expenses. You know what I mean? Like, and I do things much cheaper than I would even want to half the time to get involved on records that I want to be involved in. And like that always comes to like to haunt me and get taken advantage of, and it's like always really, really, really fucking annoying and makes me like really hate doing label work. And also on top of that, like you have crazy deadlines and they don't even care about the quality of the content. They just care that a thing was finished on the deadline for the budget, and they like, it's just shitting out content. It's really not focusing on like making stuff that's emotionally fulfilling. You know what I mean? That's not the name of the game. And that's the name of the game that I want to be in. You know what I mean? It's like working with people who are passionate about like their ideas and want to make stuff that makes me euphoric and feel like I'm working on something that's important. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what keeps you going, especially if you're going to do 10 to 12 hour days.
Yeah, I mean, like the biggest like issues that happen in the breakdown of the cycle is like a band gets signed. A band is signed, like then they go on a tour cycle to go and promote that record.
Right.
And then they get signed to like in their album deal, they have to make a new record. So they're going to find the most narrow amount of time to put into the calendar months in advance to make the record. And then they're going to be tasked with doing all their own pre-production on their tour bus. So no one's really actually getting prepared for anything. The label doesn't actually have an A&R guy, so there is no one that works for the label to actually verify that the band is actually going to come adequately prepared and that the money that's being spent by the label is actually going to be adequate for everyone's preparation for the opportunity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so band comes unprepared, checks come late, checks are told that they're in the mail, for the amount that you agreed upon. And when they do come and they come late, they're actually for less than the agreed upon amount. And that's even if they bounce, because usually they bounce.
Wow.
And it's all like a tactic to like buy time, take advantage of you. Like it's just, there's so many fucking games that are played, and it's like these like weird like head games that it's just like they're just trying to fucking take advantage of everything that they can because they want it to be cheap, fast, and no one even cares about making it good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd imagine a lot of people hear that and think, oh, he's just jaded or he's cynical, but I totally get it. And I've seen it so many times with my mentor, Steve Risen, having to deal with, texting a label in the middle of a session because the check came and it bounced or it wasn't as much as he hoped. So when you hear people in the industry talking about how greasy this industry can be, I mean, that's how you know you really love it, actually, because after all that turmoil, you're still in it.
I still fucking do it every fucking day, dude, and I deal with it every fucking day. Yeah. I mean, dude, like I just, like the other day, like I just had some shit where it's like there's a band that I worked with, and I recommended like a really good friend of mine that like is doing PR work for us. And he has a boss that hates me because he used to be my manager. And so that boss is upset that he's promoting a band that I worked for. So then he's like breathing down this guy's neck, giving him shit. So that guy eventually comes to the band and is like, yeah, it would be like, I'd be able to like push you harder if you didn't work with Sam in the future. Like, and this is a person that I brought them to work with because the job is to promote my productions that he should naturally be excited about. Like, so it's like, it's crazy. That's like the type of like environment that makes me be like, am I insane or is this environment insane? You know what I mean? Like, and it reminds me of the Dave Chappelle quote where he's like on Inside the Actors Studio and he's like, these people aren't sick. These celebrities like aren't sick. The environment is sick. Like, they're not crazy. You know what I mean? Like, Dave Chappelle wasn't crazy. His environment was totally fucking irrational and taking advantage of him, and he walked away from it,
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, I even think of my own mindset changing week to week, month to month when I'm surrounded or really engulfed in the industry, like when I'm out on tour and just like anything that can go wrong will go wrong. And you get to a point where you're just like, man, like, am I becoming like narcissistic or am I becoming
exactly
because you're starting to like you feel like you're cursed. And I was it's
crazy how combative the industry forces you to be, and I just don't like to be a combative person. And it seems like at all times I'm always having to be like, okay, I really don't want to have this talk, but I'm going to have this talk all the time. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I do all the time, like every day. It's basically just be like, I hate to be the guy that is going to bring bad news to you right now, but in order for us to succeed, we have to fix this thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to rip off the Band-Aid so often.
That's the demoralizing part. And that's where, like, it makes it, like, and just, like, the whole fucking agent game that I was just describing, like, that makes me hate working on other people's content. And I'm just like, all right, well, why don't I just work on my own content and push my own fucking shit then? You know what I mean? Like, especially if, like, if stuff that I'm proud of isn't going to fucking get pushed because I'm involved in it, like, okay, like, then I just don't even like want to play that game and like make music in that industry. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. It's a very interesting mind fuck that we're kind of forced to deal with. But at the same time, there's so many moments of like, oh yeah, this is what I'm in it for. This is, this is like, or you'll find good people too. Like anytime I find good people in the industry, I'm just like, wow, like there is hope. These people are just like yourself, relating with what I'm going through and are not, ever going to try and take advantage of me. But for the most part, it seems like the people who aren't like, truly engulfed in the art and understanding the hard work, the hardest workers essentially, don't try and pull that shady shit, it seems.
Yep. Yeah, it's and it's rare and it's hard to like make good connections with lots of people like that too, especially through like the game that I play, which is being hired to produce content. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's where I'm like, I guess it seems like I'd make even more like I'd make better connections and better like fulfilling content that would inspire people to want to work with me for who I am if I just continue to make my own music through my own avenues. You know what I mean? As opposed to trying to mold and change 5 dudes into making the record that I know they have the potential to make. You know what I mean? Like, that's an exhausting process. And it's made much easier when I'm like, why don't I just work with the one cool guy who fucking completely gets it, and like, we'll just hire great session musicians and just knock this out and make this awesome and make this for really cheap and have a great time doing this the entire time. You know what I mean? Like, no hangups, no troubleshooting moments, nothing. The process just goes smoothly. Like, that's the things that I've been like starting to have more of, which has been awesome. You know what I mean? It's like working with just like 2 or 3 people from a band instead of like, we're going to record all 5 members of the band.
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
This guy's our bass player. He's never written anything. He's come to 2 practices and he says he's learned the song. Like, he's not going to play bass. Instead, what we're going to do is have the guy who plays guitar, who wrote all the songs, play all the bass, or me, and I'm going to play it, and we're going to make it great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and like, that's the cooler option. Like, shouldn't the person be thankful that the process is going to be cheaper, faster, and the morale is going to be so much more higher? Like, what the hell? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why is that being punished as the wrong move? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like that's where like the people who get that are the people that I want to make music with, or the people that like when I sit down and like make music with them, when I shout out ideas at them, they're like, that's actually a cool idea. We should do this. You know what I mean? Like, it's a fun, like they validate my input and they actually are impressed by it, and we all benefit by making better music because of that fucking discourse that happens between good creative people, you know what I mean? As opposed to having to troubleshoot human problems in a fucking group of people, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's never fun. And it's hard to do that in a sympathetic way because you're doing it 5 times a week, right? And but some people get it, and the longer you've been at it, the more you understand it too. Like, I have this saying that is kind of mean, but it's called localitis, and that is like just like a band that is just starting out, and everyone's got to start somewhere, but there's so many things that they don't understand, and it can get frustrating to guys like us who have been in it for so long, whether it's at a show or in the studio. That's like, you know, there's a certain etiquette that you don't have to know, but you at least have to have the mindset to be willing to learn it, which I guess is kind of the case for any prestigious form of art. Without getting like pretentious about it, I try and
it's funny because like what you're like touching on is like, one time I was having this like conversation with one of my friends about like this band being super difficult and me having a really difficult time like working with them, and he was like he like said to me, he goes, you know what I just realized? And I was like, what's that? And he was like, you don't realize how talented you are. And I was like, well, like, people that I know think I'm the most fucking like cockiest, like egotistical, like maniac. And like, I don't like, what do you mean? Like, tell me more. He's like, you think that everyone in the room with you understands what you understand and has the experience and the fucking talent to do what you're asking them to do. And he's like, you don't realize that none of these people know this, dude. Like, none of these people are on your level.
Exactly.
And you're getting impatient with them for being young and naive. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, you're right. Like, that actually is the issue. Is it's not them, it's the fact that I think that they should be on that fucking level. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not giving myself enough credit for like being like, oh, okay, got it. Like, I need to be like the patient leader here and like not care that this is going to take extra days and extra time, which they're like, we only have this much of a budget in this time. And I had to just stop stressing about that and be like, I don't care. That's your problem, not my problem. If you want me to care about that, then you have to be willing to have me fucking grab your guitar and play it for you and be mean to you because we have a strict timeline and a budget. But if you don't want that, then I'm going to not care about how much time it takes and what the budget is. You know what I mean? And so like, and that's where like it gets difficult to work with people for money as opposed to just the fucking creative fun of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you said the word leader, and leadership comes into it so often because you're basically managing egos, whether it's the ego of letting go of what you think you know, or the ego of explaining how you know more to someone who doesn't know a thing.
Dude, like, so it's funny because like one time I made a record in Canada with the Stories Far. It was like the most recent one that I did, and we went there for like an entire month, and like we're locked away in there, and I had this kind of like grandiose, like, man, it's gonna be tight. Like, I'm gonna be like Jerry Finn, like hanging out with Blink-182, like making the fucking record that they made in the house, and it's gonna be super fun. And like, we're gonna fucking like knock it out of the park, and it was like that, like in ways, you know what I mean? And I thought I was gonna like have this like amazing Rick Rubin like time, and I walked away feeling like I was more Dr. Drew in the entire process. You know what I mean? Like, it was so much more of like a fucking group like therapy thing to make this whole thing work, as opposed to like this like inspirational magic and like euphoria that we're just like riding off of. Like, it was like really, really challenging work, like communicating effectively and inspiring like the whole to like come together. You know what I mean? And like, that's the type of shit where it's just like that's like the really fucking hard work. You know what I mean? Is like managing people and a timeline and like trying to like actually like make like euphoric creative material like out of a burnout fucking band in the middle of the woods for 4 weeks. You know what I mean? Like, it's basically impossible. You know what I mean? Like,
it proves that it's kind of harder to be a therapist than it is to be a boot camp sergeant to this new band.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the thing where like, it's like we all fucking hated our parents and our teachers at some point in our time. And like anyone who ever went to drill, like went to like, and entered the Army hates their fucking drill instructor, but like knows that that's the person who saved their life and like the reason that they are the way that they are, you know? And like, I always appreciated those people in my life. I always appreciated the people who were abrasive and real and really connected with me with very simple wording by being like my coach when I like played ice hockey as a kid. Like, I was like, I was probably like 12, and he was like, he like pulled me over and he was like, look at our goalies. Like, you're a defenseman. I brought you onto this team to make sure that no one fucks with our goalies. Do you understand that? I was like, and he was like, anyone come up and hit the goalie after the blow of the whistle, you fucking take them out. You take the penalty. That's what you're here to do. And I'm just like, okay. And I was like the goon of my fucking team because like this dude cut through so straight to me. It was just like, this is the fucking job. This is what you're going to do. Do you understand this? You know what I mean? It's like, yes, sir, I do. I've never had an adult use the word fuck at me like that.
At 12,
I'm blown away. And like, here we go. You know what I mean? Like, so like, it's like, I always appreciated that, but like a lot of people don't, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of people find like that, like, intimidating or like, whatever, you know what I mean? It's like my energy and my enthusiasm, like really, is really unmatched half the time in the studio, you know what I mean? So like, and it's very overwhelming and like, so it's problematic at heart, you know what I mean? Like to get people on my level to want to make really fucking tight shit all the time, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I didn't realize you were a hockey player too. I grew up playing too much hockey.
It's part of my combative, defensive fucking strategy, you know what I mean? In terms of like I've always been the guy who like is the team player. I've never been the guy who scores the goals. I've never been the one to like want to fucking like get all the spotlight, but I'm the guy who like really, really, really makes sure that like we win and get shit done. You know what I mean? Like, I'm the guy who has everyone's back, you know?
The glue, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So like that definitely like translates into like what I do as a producer, you know?
Fair enough. I take it you're a Sharks fan, probably?
So I had like a falling out with hockey when I stopped playing hockey.
Okay.
Because like I was on a bunch of Ritalin as a kid, so like super stunted my growth. So like when I was 16 years old, I was 74 pounds and 4'11".
Whoa.
It was tiny. And like dudes were like bulking up and fucking shooting through puberty, and I was like a stunted, delayed guy, you know? And like, so I lost my impact as a defenseman. You know what I mean? Like I had the speed, I had like the agility, but I didn't have the size to actually like keep up and like actually play and like get picked on my A teams like I used to get picked on. You know what I mean? Like I like used to be the A team guy, then I was the B team guy, then I wasn't getting picked anymore, and like that was just the end of it. I played traveling hockey, and I went to Canada for hockey camp like dozens of times.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, man, I stayed in Guelph and went to play out there for a while. Yeah, I actually like wanted to like go to high school for hockey. I wanted to play pro. I was like a very serious like thing in my life, like, and like not playing hockey was like a very like, well, what do I do now? You know what I mean? Like it was like I lost like my perceived identity, you know, through hockey, and instead it was like, well, I love music and I play music is what I do now. And so like I got really into guitar through that, and then really into being like, oh, I guess like I like being the studio guy too, like because I really liked working at the studio and like recording my band at the studio. So it was like I could do this, like, and so I just fell into being the producer guy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's awesome.
So I don't even watch hockey anymore. I don't even pay attention to sports at all. Like I'm fully immersed into music.
Sure. Yeah. I've just started to get back into it. I mean, I have a very similar story. When I was like 12 years old, I was kind of the late bloomer. But I was really tall and lanky and awkward. So I was playing for the Marlies. I'm in '89, so I was playing against like PK Subban, and he looked when we were 12.
Oh shit, that's crazy, dude.
Yeah, he looked like he was 19 when we were 12, and it was like that was the first couple years of contact, and it was scary. Even though I was like, 8 inches taller than everyone, I'd get a lot of penalties for elbowing, obviously, because my elbow's at their head. And eventually my coach taught me a valuable lesson and benched me because I wasn't holding up as well as the other kids. And from there, it was just like music became way more important, and hockey was just like that thing I had to do 5 times a week that was no longer fun. So
yeah, I fell there too, but it was ultimately because I was useless on the ice. You know what I mean? Like I felt demoralized in that way. It's funny because there was one dude that was on my team that like I was super cool with, and he eventually joined that band Taking Back Sunday, and he played guitar for them for a while, and he was on my hockey team. So it was funny because like he kind of had like the same trajectory in a weird way. Like once hockey was done, he just like got into music full time. But yeah, super funny, man.
Wow. That is crazy. I didn't know anyone from Taking Back Sunday was from the West Coast, or were you now playing on it?
So he was playing guitar on the album called New Again.
Okay.
And like I think he just only made that one album. He was like he was the first replacement
for
that dude, for Fred. Yeah, exactly. Matt Fozzie is his name. Very nice guy. And he actually also played in a band called Facing New York that I really liked, local band.
Cool.
And the singer of that band was this guy, Eric Fredrickson, and he actually is now the famed and claimed producer Ricky Reed, responsible for Lizzo.
Oh, wow.
And a couple of the amazing hits from the Jason Derulo camp, like the Wiggle, and like there's like he was an amazing fucking like beat maker for a minute. He's a really good producer, but yeah, like it's funny because like I never thought like he was a decent singer. Like they wrote great songs, but like he was never like, oh man, this guy's gonna be like the best singer like in the world. Do you know what I mean? But like instead he became like one of the best like producers like in the world. So he does sing and does play and does make music now, which I really like. One of the songs is actually in that Emoji movie. And it's like the fucking theme song for that movie. It's so funny. So but that's the tangent from hockey that about those guys. Yeah,
it's funny how quick we can get away from music and then bring it back with
you get comfortable in a couple of bong hits and I'll fucking tangent all day long for you, dude.
Yeah, I should let you in on my little inside joke about this video game idea that is probably never gonna happen, but it's fun for us artists and producers to throw ideas at of like making kind of a Tony Hawk Pro Skater-esque meets like Rockstar Games, Grand Theft Auto, where you're an artist or you're a producer or you're a rapper or whatever you want to be.
You follow the road to fame.
Yeah, and like sure, there's like
that's funny.
There's a little bit.
That's a good game idea.
There's like a little bit of Guitar Hero. You got to play the color.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just GTA, but you're in Hollywood.
Yeah.
You start first of all. You start in the outside town. That's like the outskirts, like and then you like go to the big city, and you can like choose the lifestyle of the actor or the pop star or the rapper. Like this is a great video game, dude. I love it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but like it's probably not going to come to fruition if it ever does until like 10 years from now, at which point everything's going to be virtual reality, and it's going to be so realistic that you have to start at like the bottom of the Roxy and sell tickets, pay to play, and like try and make your way out of that and sell out the venue with like $15 tickets to people who don't really care. And then you have to manage your social media, which is like the menu is basically your phone, and you have to post like relevant social media and find the right hashtags and all that garbage. So good. And basically be a therapist to your bandmates and
exactly. Be in an active relationship with 6 people.
Exactly. So good. Yeah, and there's all these little side quests, like you meet Sam Pura and you have to like record in his studio with a really short time schedule.
Yeah. There you go. So good, dude.
You'd be a great side character in this game.
Yeah, I love it. And the time is just ticking out. Yeah. And it's just like Sam's getting more and more mad as the time gets out. Yeah.
You have 20 more seconds to play the part right, or Sam's going to play it.
Exactly, dude. So good. That's the reality of the game I play every day. So good.
And then your mental health loses a couple shots because Sam played the guitar for you.
So good. Confidence drops. Yeah, so good.
Yeah, right now it's called The Grind, but
I like it. This is a great concept.
Yeah. There's going to be like a whole season of just Warped Tour. You got to like make it through.
And oof, that sounds exhausting. So good.
Thanks so much for hanging out. It was really great meeting you. And
I appreciate it, dude.
Yeah, I'm gonna
look at us.
Put a bunch of links to all your music and all the bands you worked with, and it's really impressive, man. Great. Congratulations on everything you've accomplished and continue to accomplish. And I can't wait to hear the new stuff you're making for yourself, which is exciting, man.
Hell yeah! I guess I should plug my new drum sample pack that's about to come out in a few days.
Sweet.
But basically. I've been asked for a really long time to like release a bunch of drum samples, and I've always felt like weirdly hesitant because I don't want to like be like naked and judged. But whatever, if people are gonna like benefit from it, then like cool. Mm-hmm. But I finally like decided to like go back to like a few of like the name records and like pull out the drum samples that I created for those records that. People would probably be interested in exploring and using. So I did like some drums from a Basement album that I did in London. So it's like some really unique like tones that I got out of that London studio. One of them is with 100th that I got out of a studio in Charleston. Another is with The Story So Far in my drum sound here. Then The Dangerous Summer here and Spiritworld here. And then I think I have like another location one that I put in there too. But it's pretty cool. So if you've ever wanted to fuck with the one-shot drum sounds from those records, you will now have the ability to. So
that's really awesome.
Available through Drum Forge, and it should be available here in a few days. So.
Cool. Yeah, I've never checked out Drumforge, but now I might have to because that's really intriguing. And usually I do these podcasts out of the music school and studio that I'm working at here in Oceanside, the Sharp School of Music. And, we don't have a world-class room, so we're open to VST drumming, especially if we're on a time crunch with a band. So I'll definitely have to check those out because I'm a huge fan of those drums.
Yeah, hell yeah. You will enjoy them.
Well, right on, Sam Pura. Thank you so much. Episode 31.
Absolutely, dude.
That's a wrap. Thanks again, man.
Best friends, dude.
Best friends indeed, Sam Pura. What a cool guy. Like many of the conversations on this podcast, this one especially left me really feeling like I wish I had gone into more detail on things like some of my favorite new records that Sam produced. But I'll definitely be keeping in touch with him and picking his brain some more and checking out his new Drum Shotz drum sample pack he just put out through Drumforge, and you should too. Big thanks to Sam Pura for taking the time to be on the podcast and share his wisdom and stories. It was really fun. As always, a big thank you to Vocalese for supporting musician wellness and protecting our vocal cords. If you haven't checked this stuff out, it's incredible. It's an all-natural throat spray. They also make a bunch of all-natural musician wellness products, so check them out. You can get 15% off your order using this link beside my head. I'll drop it in the description of this podcast as well. And thank you for checking out this episode of State of My Art Podcast. If you enjoyed this, be sure to click like. If you really enjoyed it, click subscribe, click the notify bell, click follow if you're on Spotify or wherever you're hearing this or watching this. All that stuff really helps me and helps you see more episodes like this one. That's all for now. I'll see you next week for another episode of State of My Art Podcast.